Hi, today is January 2nd, 2020. It's actually my 20th wedding anniversary as well. Kind of interesting. I am going to give a couple updates on my road to Leadville. So, first video that came out was I went through and did some goal setting and thought about what would be good, where do I want to go. For me, I seem to do better if I have a big, scary, crazy goal that I can shoot for. Something that's unreasonable. I believe that extraordinary lives in the unreasonable. So how do we get there? So we had some friends in that came in for a couples retreat, and we helped them. I think it was really humbling. It was a wonderful experience. And I realized that I was trying to set new goals for next year, for 2020. And in 2019, I started to embrace that I actually can be more of an athlete than I ever thought I could. I have had my knee and my hip replaced about 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago. And I've always been overweight and had some challenges. But Rika really inspired me, my wife, inspired me to do, she started to do ultra runs. And what if I tried one? What if I set a goal of trying one? And I did that about roughly a year ago. We set up for that, and I did my first ultra. And it was an extraordinary experience. I've got a great coach, Amanda McIntosh. She was a wonderful coach, very helpful, helped me understand the nutrition. But being 52 now, I wanted to do it a little smarter. So I ended up doing just a total train wreck, nightmare in the rain, 35 degrees, trail run, my first marathon ever. I mean, literally, it was 40-mile-an-hour winds, and the tables would blow away. It was unbelievably bad and rainy, and it was awful. But I got through it. I was like, wow, this is pretty freaking cool. So then we did Ice Age, which is this shirt, which was a 50-mile, or Rika, my wife, did a 50-mile, and I did a 50K trail run up in the Kettle Moraine Wilderness in Wisconsin. And it's just extraordinary. It's just beautiful, but a lot of hard training. You know, there's a lot of lessons, listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of books. Training in Nebraska in January blows, literally. It can be zero and, but too bad, get out there, suck it up, because 15 miles on a treadmill is no fun. But long story short is it worked. Ended up doing 3 ultra events, and then Rika and I did a 140-mile hike in Switzerland, France, and Italy around Mount Blanc, and it was just extraordinary. But I kind of hurt myself after coming off that. We did about 35,000 feet up, but then 35,000 feet down, and it was the down that kind of beat me up. And I'm realizing that maybe I was pushing a little bit with my prosthetics, particularly with my knee. I don't want to abuse it, but it hurt and it scared me to death that maybe I'd done something really bad long term. So what I ended up doing is I sucked it up and went and talked to the doctor, to the surgeon, who gave me a good scolding, but things were pretty strong. And that's where we had our friends who came in for a couples retreat, really pushed to the idea, they both were physicians, ER docs of sorts, and they pushed us like, dude, you really shouldn't be pushing those joints that way. So challenged me to consider maybe doing some cycling. I used to cycle a lot, but I hadn't in a long time, so I started thinking about that. Ooh, all right, yeah, well, why not? So I reached out to him and said, hey, well, Mr. Tough Guy, what would you suggest for some events, for a big endurance event that I could set a goal for? And he came back and said, well, I happen to be the medical race director for the Leadville 100, and I can get you in that if you want. Now, this is considered by a lot of people, was considered the hardest endurance event for a long time. It's one of the tougher mountain biking events because it all starts at 10,250, and in one day you do 107 miles up over 14,000 feet of vertical, starting at 10,250. So you go over 12 and a half, I think, like 2 or 3 times. So I said, really pushed the comfort zone, decided, you know what? Go big or go home. Do it. If you think you can do it, whether you think you can or you think you can't, to quote from Henry Ford, you're probably right. So I decided I want to do that, but I want to do it smart. I don't need to just hammer down and keep swinging on things the way I always used to when I was younger. That's why I ended up with prosthetics. So where I ended up was that I started doing some research, and I realized that I don't know that there's anybody who's completed the Leadville 100 with a body fat of 25% or more. And so I realized that I really probably needed to address this weight thing in a big way. And this was the last last video I did. This video, though, talks about how since that last video, over roughly the last 2.5 months-ish, I'm down just under 40 pounds. So I got a body fat somewhere around 18%, somewhere between that 155 and 160 range. I haven't been this weight since I was probably 14 or 15 years old. And it's just extraordinary. There's parts of my body that I'm not exactly happy with. We're exfoliating and hoping that we'll find some sort of miracle cream to help tighten things up a little bit. But we're getting there. But long story short is that from my high, when I was smoking and drinking and doing all that shit that I really shouldn't do, that I was really good at, I'm down almost 100 pounds. And I'm realizing that statistically most people don't keep it off, but I'm going to change that. So to me, step one was to lose the weight. So step one was to make the decision. That's always the hardest thing. So I made the decision. I'm going to do the Leadville race. My goal is to not get swept. It's 12 hours. I have to get it completed in 12 hours. There's this ultimate little crazy goal back of my head. You get a big fancy belt buckle if you get it done in 10. I don't know. We'll see where I go with that. But so with that, first thing was lose the weight. So I'm going to say I'm there. I've got another week. I did some very specific medical-based stuff where I've got one last week where I'm technically trying to reprogram my hypothalamus, the way I look at sugar and the way the cravings are in my body and things like that. And I've got a metabolic rate test tomorrow. I'm doing a fistful of supplements and each day from a doctor, a DO that I really trust, Dr. Biscup, thank you. And so I'm feeling like I'm in good shape there. But because I had hurt myself and I was a little slower, I'm starting to get back into it. So long story short is I decided that with this year I'm going to start commuting, and I'm just going to do it. So it's about 18 miles round trip from the house. I found a decent route. It's been a little on the chilly side, but suck it up. If I figure out, I used to go sit when it was 0 degrees and shoot Bambi and hunt and things like that. I can probably figure out how to do this. And so long story short is I think I'm getting it figured out. It feels like the first step is there. So next things are, I'm going to do a video on the bike that I chose. I've invested a bunch of time looking at new bikes. And then I also invested, starting to figure out I need to find a good coach, and I'm in the process of what that looks like. But I'm trying to do it a lot smarter, using all sorts of technical things and training heart rates and how can I start building and just how to be smarter with it. But overall, I'm really excited. I think first step, weight there. Second, first step, have the mental decision. Second, weight's been addressed. Third, I'm embracing the idea of commuting. Fourth is going to be the bike, and then actually getting a coach. I will do another video as well on, I started doing something called Zwift, that I set up a rig at home that allows you to work with other people, but it's on a smart trainer. It's really cool stuff. So, but long story short, the journey from when I was a cyclist back in Vail and Oregon and things like that, literally almost 30 years ago, it's really cool to see how much the technology's changed. You know, bicycles still have gears and round wheels and cogs, but man, things have changed a lot. It's really cool. So anyway, next one is going to be on the bike. But thank you very much for enjoying this. And my ultimate goal is hopefully this will maybe help somebody else to say, well, holy crap, that guy did it. Why can't I? You know what? You can. Go to it.